Now, this is your Feel Good Breakfast Show. On this show, we bring education. We also touch on issues that we want to learn more about. Earlier, I mentioned that the whole of October, we're creating awareness around breast cancer. And it's saddening to know that women's cancers are killing 500,000 women in developing countries. It's particularly sad because a lot of these deaths can be prevented by early detection. Now, it is, of course, Breast Cancer Month. And here are two people who's doing incredible work, not just in our communities, but in our country, and creating awareness all across the world. I'm talking about our First Lady, Madame Tobeka Zuma, is in our studio together with Ambassador Phungi Baloyi. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
This morning, Madame, you are representing the Tobeka Madiba Zuma Foundation. Since 2009, the Team Z Foundation has tirelessly working, educating people, creating awareness. Why is the fight against breast cancer something that you are passionate about? What do you hope to achieve?
I think, my dear, for me, it was very important that I start a foundation because I realized I'm not going to live forever, but my legacy should. And after observing that our women were dying from a largely preventable disease, it was important for me to start a foundation that will educate our women because often people die because of the lack of knowledge on what needs to be done about the disease. We know what needs to be done. We know what places our lives at risk of getting breast cancer. So it was important for me to create a platform because, I mean, women don't have a platform where they can, you know, empower one another and share knowledge, expertise, exchange skills on how to respond to the challenge presented by cancer. So where we want to go, we want to get to a point where, you know, we create a cancer-smart South Africa, where women stop dying from a preventable disease. But also of significance is that, you know, one is placed in a unique position of influence. Not of executive power, but of influence.
I was going to touch on that. It's exciting. Our First Lady in studio. And with that influence, you are doing exactly that?
Yes, influencing policy as well, being able to, you know, to call on the Minister of Health, who's very receptive, to say, Minister of Health, we're seeing women now, you know, being diagnosed with HIV AIDS. And that places them at risk of getting the cancer as a secondary disease, which is going to kill them. We can put them on ARVs, but if we don't focus, take a holistic approach in dealing with cancer and HIV AIDS under one umbrella, then we're going to lose the battle.
Thank you. Thank you, our First Lady. Also, Mrs. Baloyi in our studio, a cancer survivor. You know, I always say we're all survivors because this is something that touches each and every one of us. We either know someone with breast cancer or we've survived it. As a survivor and as an ambassador for the TMZ Foundation, why would you still, you know, be out there supporting friends and family on your own road to recovery?
I couldn't have done it any other way because of, firstly, the support that I got when I was at my lowest point. It has been amazing, the love and the support I got, especially from my husband. He was, you know, he was a soccer player at the time. He was very busy, but there was never a moment where I felt alone or rejected. He accepted me because, you know, again, with the stigma with people that once you lose your breasts, relationships fall down. I've heard of cases where people even got divorced from, you know, because the woman was diagnosed with breast cancer, but my husband accepted me. He got into it with me. We were on the internet every day, reading up, and that really propped me up to say, I want to survive, I want to do this. And there were support groups as well. You know, before I started treatment, there were cancer survivors who came up and they took me through everything that I needed to know before I started my treatment. So when all of these symptoms and side effects started happening, it was scary, but I knew what was coming. So there's no way I can't say I'll sit back and not do anything.
What's your message to women out there? I mean, we ask this all the time because we want to prevent it. What can prevent breast cancer? How do we detect it?
Okay, first of all, the prevention side. We need to watch what we eat. That is very important. The abuse of alcohol, the abuse of smoking, that is very important because that, in the long run, it will affect how your body takes. So we must really watch what we eat. We must exercise our diet. But sometimes, unfortunately, if it's in the family, you are most likely to get it if maybe your mother had breast cancer. So you need to know and to
check,
do your
yeah.
checks every month. You need to go every month for, I mean, every year for your sonograms. If you're over 40, you need to go every year for your mammograms. But again, for checking, you need to know what to look out for. You need to know your body. You need to know your breasts. Every month when you stand in front of the mirror, you should be able to see that, okay, my breasts look different today. This nipple has dimpled, or the skin around it has changed. So you need to know all the symptoms for you to be able to do your breast checks every month.
If you wonder what we're doing in studio this morning, our First Lady in our studio, Madame Zuma, and also Mrs. Baloyi, who is an ambassador for the TMZ Foundation. Madame Zuma, so many stigmas attached to cancer, you know, use different utensils, you know, the house is not educated, we don't know what to do. What's your message? You know, what should we be looking out for? Also in terms of the foundation, what is next for the foundation?
I think the stigma, my dear, is driven by the lack of knowledge. Because people are not aware, they don't know, and that is why there's so much stigma. You would be amazed that when you come across women, the fear of rejection is more than the fear of death itself, because they fear the fact that their spouse is going to reject me after I've been diagnosed with breast cancer or any other form of cancer. So it's very important that we don't only educate women, we educate men as well. Because men also get breast cancer, by the way.
Yes, yes, yes.
But also what Ms. Baloyi has just outlined here, the risk factors. What is important is for us to be empowered with the knowledge. The father at home shouldn't be smoking in the presence of his family. He's placing his family at risk. They become secondary smokers by default, by sitting with him while he's smoking. Lack of exercise. There's so many things that we need to be aware of. But the stigma will be driven by us being empowered with knowledge, being educated, our health literacy going up, knowing how to respond to cancer. But for me, what is important, and that I've been saying, whether it's at a country level, whether in the region, in the globe, is that we can build so many hospitals, 100 hospitals or thousands of hospitals, but if we don't strengthen our prevention, we are fighting a losing battle.
Yeah.
We must prevent the very onset of the disease because we know what needs to be done. So the foundation seeks to disseminate the information and empower our people with the information of how they can take charge of their lives, because the government is the custodian of its people. But people need to realize that they also need to play their part and meet the government halfway by taking charge of their lives, by leading a very responsible life, not abusing alcohol, and 5 years down the line, you are hoping for Minister Motsoaledi to help you with dialysis.
Yes.
Yet you knew that when you were doing this, you were actually, you know, depleting your life. You must do things. We know what needs to be done. Plant vegetables, go green. I say think pink and eat green. But because it's Breast Cancer Awareness Month, I say touch, feel and treat. But also, having said that, what is important for me and of significance is that our government also need to ensure that our women have got equitable access to healthcare. By being placed in the rural parts of our country shouldn't place you at a position whereby there's lack of access to equitable healthcare and quality healthcare too, where our women can go to the clinics, local clinics at a district level. When they go for a headache, they get empowered with how they can touch their breasts, do their breast self-examination, but also being screened properly, because the breast self-examination does not replace the screening. It's still very important for you to screen, but the self-examination helps you to detect any foreign objects, being those tumors, lumps in your breasts, you know, that will then send the alarms to say, let me go in and be screened. So we need to know our bodies. As women, we need to know our bodies.
As women, we need to know our bodies. We're totally honored to have our First Lady in our studio, Madame Tobeka Zuma, and also Ms. Baloyi. Thank you so much for joining us today. They are here from the Tobeka Madiba Zuma Foundation, creating awareness on breast cancer. You heard it, touch and feel and detect. Be informed, ladies. Well, there's lots more happening on our Feel Good Breakfast show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us. Thank you so much.
We appreciate you so much. We'll be back on our Feel Good Breakfast show after the break.